I've been working on tabulation. Monthly budgets. And tabulation. And also responsibility organizing for accounting. I think when we have time, we'll check on that also. Thank you.
All right. I'll check in next. This is Jay here. I am probably like a 5.4 and been working on some of the hard stop and beyond hard stop coordination, and also Vienna mission within, as well as payroll, recruitment, finance, and all that stuff, etc., taxes, etc. And I'm glad to be here. It's good. All right, Lucy.
I'm like 5.
Lucy, I didn't quite get you. You said you've been working on payroll?
And yes, and system transition.
Okay. All right, so let's go on here and see what is next. Check-ins on attendance, comm groups, strikes, rankings. So I think our attendance is fine. Do you know anyone who messaged? I don't know anyone who messaged.
No.
Okay. Comm groups. Let's check our comm groups here. So this would be full new moon. Looks like it's just the 3 of us. Fine.
Yeah.
Rankings. Rankings is simple. It would just be myself. What about strikes? Review the schedule.
Yes.
So it's for new moon session. Looks like we have a bunch of people who did not respond. Abdul responded though, huh?
Yes, he did.
Okay. So I mean, in my mind, we just need to obviously cut some people out of the budget. It's just very silly to have all these people in the budget who just are obviously not involved. All right. Anyways, we have that all updated. So next is our value tracking.
Yeah.
So this will be again for the steering team. And today would be 1-3. Here it is. J. Luz Albina, we're starting at 3, maybe 2 hours. Might be fun to do some team equity later, but I think this all looks good. Network equity looks good, so let's add in the network equity if you haven't already done that. So this would be a new month. Oh, look, we already created it.
Yeah, 136.
Excellent. And we have new moon. So I'm assuming this new moon is not correct, so we need to do...
Yeah, it's not correct.
So it's going to be 59 for now. This is 0. All right, cool. So we got that updated. And then there's obviously other details that we're going to want to update for 158 degree. But I think overall we're looking good on our our value tracking. Cool. Any other questions on the value tracking? All right, so I think we're going to go ahead and do our weekly check-in.
Yeah.
And then we can get into our desired outcomes. So let's take a moment for a weekly check-in. And this is the 136 degree east moon month?
158. Yeah.
No. What's the new moon month that we're on?
136.
Cool.
But the weekly check-in we're doing week 4.
136 degree east?
No, we are doing for 158.
Okay, but what
4.
month is this? What is the current moon month? 136 degree east?
Yeah.
Cool.
West. 136 degree west. Yeah, west.
Thank you.
We have 2 more minutes on the weekly check.
Okay. Are we done? We're good?
Yeah, for me, We are on 5-second pause.
All right, so now we're going into our desired outcomes and our topic review. Review on this month's budget. Yes, and also approval. Board. Review on accounting for quarterly budget kickoff. Cool. We definitely want to review and update the super hard stop beyond super hard stop. Taxes hard stop.
On the approval HR board, we didn't send out the voting form for the budget.
We did send it out.
No.
We did not. Okay.
Maybe we just have to check on the proposals, then before we create the form and send out.
I'm confused. What?
We want to check on the options.
Oh yeah, we can review the options for sure.
Okay, fine.
So monthly budget, quarterly budget, beyond super hard stop, recruitment. Is there anything else we'd want to go over?
Yes.
Let's see.
Yeah. New transition. New structure transition. And it's complete program. Yes. What about mission within?
What about it?
Do you have anything to go about it
on? Mission within. I mean, if we wanted to do work on it, I guess. But I mean, I don't know what really to talk about.
Do we have work on that mission within?
It's mainly VAA work.
Okay.
All right. So does this look good?
Yes.
And we'll leave the new structure transition to afterwards if we have more time, because I don't think it's going to be a priority in our new Beyond Super Hard Stop.
What is it?
The new structure transition.
Okay.
I mean, we've gone
So
long. Well, we need to do it, but we've gone so long without doing it. It's obviously not a priority.
Okay.
All right, so where are we now? We have desired outcome schedule for session. So let's go into the schedule. Any other questions on desired outcomes topic review? Do we have agreement? Is there any objections? All right, so I think we have agreement on that. Schedule for session. So hopefully we'll do a wrap up, in like an hour from now. Hello? Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Did we lose Albina?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, she's back.
Can you go through taxes too? Review where we are.
Okay. All right. So in terms of wrapping up, we'll probably start wrapping up in about an hour. Let's say 4:45. Start wrap up. So about an hour and 15 minutes. That sound good?
Yeah.
So tomorrow we've got our moon apogee, although this isn't correct. First eighth moon, first quarter moon, second eighth moon, recruitment commission. This also can't be correct.
I think I need to check on that. The doc was prepared by Zeal, so those sessions need to be.
Well, I don't know. We could put that on our policy keeping. So under our policy keeping, we would say not completed was the schedule and dates for the moon clock, specifically the recruitment commission. Full moon, 30th moon, Mercury. So we have a Mercury session on the 25th that we're going to want to prepare for. It'll be our next planetary session. Any questions about the schedule? Schedule?
No.
All right. So let's go to MBE and plasma. I don't think there's much plasma stuff going on, but for MBE, there's a few things. Obviously, we have mission within membership voting form. This needs to be sent out. So this is VAA work. The next one we have is the HR board vote for the monthly budget. So that's important. And then there's also the New Earth Nation, which is UESSEAA. So I think that's it. But we can check real quick to see if we're missing anything else. Venus, Earth, Bouncel, Mars. We're gonna seasonal plasma mission within New Earth World Play Board. That's also UESS. So let's go ahead and add that. So let's put here UESS support, and it's going to be VAA work, New Earth Nation, and World Play Ventures. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 different MBE priorities that we want to make sure we are following through with. All right. Any questions about MBE or Plasmo? And we can go ahead and update this here. Current priorities. All right. I think we're ready to move on to proposals. So we have co-chair election. Jessica. So do you guys? So part of the co-chair elections is, current co-chairs. So you'd list the current co-chairs of who's waiting what weeks, so that we have that documented. So that would also be a policy issues, not fully documenting co-chair elections. Number of weeks for each current co-chair. So the other question is also we're considering maybe pushing back the co-chair elections to every month instead of every 2 weeks, but I don't know. So who are the current co-chairs? Who are the current co-chairs?
Zilo and Lucy.
And how many weeks does Zilo have left?
I think it should be through by now. Or maybe 1 week.
Nothing.
I think. Pardon?
There were no elections. Since when you can read.
So Zilo is through. Zilo is completely 6 weeks done.
So Zilo just finished 6 weeks?
Yes.
So Zilo just finished 6 weeks. So that would mean that he has to wait 6 weeks. So 6 weeks until for waiting, right?
Yeah.
So is anyone else the current co-chair? Is Lucy?
Lucy.
And how many weeks does Lucy have? 2 weeks left?
No.
2 weeks left.
I don't.
And is there anyone else who's a co-chair or is waiting?
No, there were just 2 of them. I stepped down. So 4 more weeks for me.
4 more weeks? I think it's just 2 more weeks, right?
2 more weeks, yeah, for me.
All right, so we need to appoint 2 co-chairs. One will be for 6 weeks and one will be for 4 weeks. So it would be Jessica would be for 6 weeks. So as we ask Jessica to be co-chair. So this would be for 6 weeks. And then we have Steve O. So he would be for 4 weeks unless Jessica doesn't want to do it, in which case then Steve O would be for 6 weeks. So backup is Abdul. Okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's it for co-chairs. Co-chairs also could be part of Plasmo and MBE, but this is good. Any other proposals? What about our decisions from last week?
Which decisions? The proposals.
Did we have a voting form? Did we have a voting form last week?
Yes, for last week. Yeah. I just leave there. Just a minute. just link the results on top of the co-chair election results on top the spreadsheet.
Okay. I'm a little confused here. Why does it say 70-degree east results, 61-degree east results? Like, what's going on? What are all these different results? What's all this? What is this?
Which ones?
It says 116-degree west results, 3rd-degree east results. I don't understand. What are we looking at?
I don't know which one you are checking on. Just previous proposals results spreadsheet above the co-chair results.
This is for elections. Sorry. Okay, let's try this again. So previous results spreadsheet. All right. Co-chair elections. All right. So it looks like all the proposals passed.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and list them. So the first one is switching full moons and new quarter moons. So all proposals passed. So one is switch new / quarter moon steering and support teams. 2 is add vibes. 3 is looking to hiring lawyers. 4 is change payroll form twice per month to monthly. So we're moving payroll to monthly. So for moving payroll to monthly. And last but not least, certifying the full moon voting. Cool. So the proposal is to certify the results from, this is the quarter moon, right? Last quarter moon?
Yeah.
That's would be 158. So are there any questions about the proposal? Are there any concerns? Are there any objections? So we have consensus. Cool. All right. So do you guys understand how to do the proposals and everything? We should have you guys practice more of the proposal oversight, and you just list what the proposal is, then you make sure it's clear, ask if there's any questions, concerns, objections, and then you vote. So you guys should be able to handle those more in the future. Does that make sense?
Yes,
cool.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it'll be good to do that. Any other proposals? All right, so I guess we have no other proposals. So now we're going to vibes. Oh, and we do want to note that for the Mercury session coming up, it might be a good time to do some plasma and documenting all of our decisions. But for now, let's just focus on beyond super hard stuff. We'll get there. All right, vibes. So the first thing is we do have 2 sessions scheduled. The first one is on Tuesday, right? And does that overlap with the recruitment commission?
No. Recruitment commission session will be earlier. But you'll have a gap of like 7
So
hours.
Wednesday is recruit situation. Wahoo. Okay. Albina. So we want to add these two. This is going to be at 12 Andromeda, and this one's typically at 11 before Andromeda. So let's add these to the schedule, if we could do that. And then we're going to want to send out reminders. So add to schedule above and send out reminders for this and the.
Okay.
I will say one thing is that in relationship to Wahoo, there is possible strategic differentiation. Primarily, you know, like her work ethic, I think, is the biggest differentiation, where she basically doesn't seem to be interested in doing work unless it is somehow pre-approved or ordained by her. I mean, I don't really understand it, but she doesn't want to take on responsibilities. You know, she seems to more want to be involved in the executive roles, but she doesn't have any idea what she's doing, and she doesn't seem to agree with the model of the organization, right? And all the work that we put into for dozens of years. So we might want to go into that. Let's put that as a topic, if we get to it.
Okay.
And obviously, we'll talk more about it on Wednesday as well with Wahoo.
We are on 15 seconds.
You want to do that?
Yes. Can we exhale together? Inhale, then exhale.
Cool, thank you. So if we do focus on the strategic differentiation with Wahoo, and we're not able to resolve our issues, it would build a parallel structure model. So this would build a parallel structure, and then we would set up regular sessions with Wahoo to work in parallel as opposed to internally. So we can go over that more later. But overall, it's not like a bad thing. It's just part of our structural models in terms of understanding core value systems and strategy. All right, let's go on. Anything else in related to vibes, issues, contentious situations? What about the schedule? Is the schedule a problem or not?
Which schedule, Jay?
Our schedule for the new moon.
Yes, definitely there was a problem. I saw it on my calendar. Even if I open now, I find it is on Wednesday and it is also on Tuesday. I don't think whether that is an issue. I just checked and I found it and I was confused. That is why I tried to find out which one was correct. I think, don't misunderstand me. Before I was just like, which one should I join? Because it appears Wednesday and it is appearing on
So it
Tuesday.
says here that RC team meeting is at 1 o'clock a.m.
Yeah.
American time, which would be like 7 p.m. UTC. But then it also says here that there is the new moon today as well as tomorrow.
Yeah.
I don't know why it's updated twice. But Zil was fixing also the recruitment commission on the calendar, maybe. But for mine, it's just appearing this one once. It's not twice.
Right, so I deleted that one.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the issue is simply that it should be fixable. So issue is that more than just J and Zulu should be able to fix the calendar if there is a problem. And so for example, Lucy is a co-chair currently. Right, so Lucy, you do not have access to the calendar, or what's going on?
It has been long for me. I
Lucy has access.
I
There
was
is no
accessing before. I don't know.
But it is still accessible, Lucy. Or what's wrong? Are you not able to access the calendar and update anything? I don't think if
I say it has been long for me updating the calendar since you and Zulu have been taking that part. I've never.
Okay, but
Seen
the question, Lucy, is if you have access to be able to update the calendar or not.
Yeah, I can update.
So why don't you just fix it?
Okay, I'll fix it then.
Well, because we spent like, I don't know, 20 minutes going back and forth about it being twice on the calendar. So it's like when you see a problem, you just fix it. You don't need to bring up a big, huge issue, right? It's like if there's a problem, you just fix it. You don't need to ask permission to fix things. But it was perfectly fine to ask, which one is it? We looked online, we confirmed and verified that the session was today. So then we just needed to delete the one tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yes, but sometimes you cannot just fix the bill like that. Maybe we have to, who knows? That is why I was asking. I should not just fix. Maybe I delete the right thing. I don't know. That was my issue. Maybe whoever was updating is right. So I think it is good also to console on Skype. So
that's
when
what
you update the right thing.
You consulted us on Skype. We both told you that today was the new moon session, and so then the one tomorrow was incorrect. So then it should have just been fixed. Instead, we just kept going back and forth about it.
Jay, you misunderstand me. Going back and forth how? I think then if somebody finds something like that, you just have to go silent without asking, right?
No, the goal is to fix it.
You asking?
No, the goal is to simply fix it. Like, well, the issue would be every time there's a problem anywhere in the network, the goal is to fix it and improve upon the situation as quickly as possible. Does that make sense?
Okay.
Okay, what? Okay, yes, that makes sense. Or okay, no, it doesn't make sense.
Makes sense.
Okay, so then the issue is, how do we empower people, including yourself, that when you see problems, you fix them, as opposed to creating more confusion, right? We just want to get it fixed, and we want it as quickly as possible so that as an organization, as a team, we can move forward. Do you see what the issue is? And maybe this relates to other issues in terms of just being, scared or fearful or whatever. I mean, it's like no one can do work to get things organized, and that would be an issue and a problem in and of itself, right? So the question is, what is the problem that prevents you from just fixing it? Or anybody, right? We just want to, when there's issues with the calendar, we just want to get it updated and corrected as quickly as possible. Okay, do we at least understand the issue or not?
Yes, I understand the issue.
Okay, how would you explain it? I'm trying to understand it myself. How would you explain it, Lucy?
When you find something, you need to fix it.
Okay, but that would be the goal, right? So what would be the issue? The issue would be like it's possible there is a problem with people or workers taking action to quickly and efficiently meet goals, right? So let's go ahead and add that to our issues list. But it's perfectly fine to ask about it. What would this be? This would be a work method, right? Right, so if someone finds a problem, it's like we just want to get it fixed and updated. If trying to fix it creates another problem, then we address that problem, right? It's just like we never stop. So the last thing we want to do is just not do anything would be the biggest problem. Any questions about or any other issues?
We are 5 minutes to the top of the first hour. Are we taking a break or we go through the review of the topics before we break?
I think it's fine just to take a break, and then we'll go through the our 1 minute review on each. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's do a 5 minute break, and then we'll come back to our 1 minute review on each, and then get jumping into the.
Okay. Thank you.
Session. Okay, I'm back.
I'm back also.
Just have to wait for. View. I mean, Albina.
Yes, I'm back.
Oh, okay, you're back here. All right.
Yeah.
So let's do 1 month on each of these. So monthly budget. We need to send out HR voting form. Is there anything else on the monthly budget?
Just to check on the proposal we have before we create the form.
We haven't created the form yet? Check
No,
on the proposal.
but the options are already. Just open the budget.
All right, cool. Quarterly budget. So yeah, when we get to this item, we'll go through it in detail.
Okay, fine.
Quarterly budget. So accounting is the key, and then we're going to be doing some VAA work here to set up overall budget. Any questions about the quarterly budget? And it's good to remember we still have to do monthly budgets, monthly and super team budgets. Also have super team budgets. There's also super team budgets. We don't want to forget about that.
Yeah.
So even with the quarterly budget sets up the monthly budget. But the monthly budgets don't go away. We still have the monthly budgets, and we still have to do the monthly budgets. They're just not. They're confined inside the quarterly budget, right? And they should be a lot simpler. The monthly budgets, and especially super team budgets, should be super simple. All right, beyond super hard stop. So I mean, we basically want to review this and update the priorities. Anything else for beyond super hard stop? The primary difference between the current super hard stop and the beyond super hard stop is going to be the taxes. So it's pretty much a taxes hard stop. We need to prioritize the taxes, and it's not happening. So we just need to go on super hard stop. I mean, beyond super hard stop. And there are a couple of policy things that get changed, including with our main sessions. So our main sessions are going to continually get more and more into work sessions until we get all the work done. Any questions on beyond super hard stop?
You added quarterly budget on that as client work. Is it client work?
Yes, the quarterly budget will be client work.
Okay.
Just like accounting is already client work, right?
Yeah.
All right, taxes. Oh, there is a part here that we do need to update. Update the potential budget. Potential income.
On sponsorship support, we just have BSc. What about DS? Is it not part of the beyond super hard stop priorities?
What DS? Digital storytellers and BAC, same thing. Yeah.
Oh, okay. DS, fine.
Cool. All right. So taxes. Basically, here we have the tax plan, and Zulu drafted it so we could go over the tax plan if we can find the link. And
Are we working? Are you talking on the taxes that we usually submit in November? Is it November or September?
I don't understand. What's the question?
I'm asking the taxes that you are working on. Is it the one we submitted September?
The taxes are past due. They were due on January 31st for the 1099s. And then we have the extensions that are due very, very soon. So what's your question? I'm confused.
I was asking the due date for taxes. I thought it is due in November.
Well, they're only due in November if we file the extensions. So we have to file the extensions now in order to have them due in November. And it's actually not November, it's September, October, and November.
Okay. Maybe I was confused. I thought maybe all taxes are due November and December.
Okay, don't ever assume anything. Always just ask questions and just do whatever the policies and whatever the law says. In this case, the law says that 1099s are due on January 31st, not to be sent out. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it has nothing to do with what anyone thinks or assumes. It's about what is the law, what do we have to do, what are our policies, and we just get it done. So everything should be verified, not assumed. So therefore, there would be no confusion if nobody has any assumptions about anything. All you do is just follow the law and the policy, and then there's no confusion. Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, cool. So here's the tax plan. So we'll go over the tax plan when we get to taxes. Anything else on taxes? All right. So for recruitment, obviously we have the recruitment commission and ambassador meeting. So that should be fine. But we do need to schedule recruitment work and kind of like rethink priorities. Primarily, I'm looking at a new timeline for recruitment. So we want to go over the new recruitment timeline and see if that helps. Anything else on recruitment? All right. Digital sellers, ed funds. So we want to follow up with ed funds daily. Make sure we get meetings scheduled. I mean, that's the most important thing. To be management work. And there could also be some DA work, and then we just want to review the percentage admin fee and see what the current status is. Okay. So that's probably gonna take 10 minutes. Right? Anything else on digital storytellers, very creative?
Also, you need to reviewing.
Review what?
The admin, either correct or we have like 3 verifications that need to be verified.
Yeah, we're gonna go through it.
So at least you need to find time to review and verify so that you can move on to the next step.
Yeah, that's what we're going to do. Review the percentage admin fee to see what the current status is.
Okay.
Yes, but we also need to follow up with the Ed Fund daily to make sure we get the meeting scheduled. Okay?
Yeah.
And then also I got a call from Spark, and so we need to call Mike back and see what's going on there. Make sure that's all moving forward well. All right.
Okay.
Okay, so strategic differentiation, review policies.
Five-second pause.
Awesome. So for strategic differentiation, we're going to review the policies. We want to think of the next steps and options with Wahoo. So ideally, Wahoo will agree to focus on our strategic models. If not, that's fine. If she doesn't want to follow our models, that's perfectly fine. And then we just create the new ones for her. The only other example I have of like a direct differentiation on strategy would be with like Lucy and the other one where it's just like we can't get you to help with recruitment. That would be like a core strategic differentiation, right? Of not prioritizing recruitment and bringing in new people and volunteers. So that would be another example. But that one's minor because Lucy supports the work ethic of focusing on responsibilities and getting work done, right? So as long as we focus on responsibilities and get work done, it doesn't, well, I mean, it obviously affects us. Like our whole organization would be way better off if as a team, we all worked on recruitment together. But since we don't, we're obviously in a worse situation strategically because we're not in alignment, but at least we're still getting work done, right? So with Wahoo, she's not in the strategic alignment and we don't get work done. So it's kind of like a double whammy. So we will see what we would want to do on that situation. All right, anything else on strategic differentiation, questions, understandings? I think we're ready to go into our first topic then, right?
Yes.
All right, so we're going to do our monthly budget. So let's open it up.
It's already fixed.
So we're taking a look at the options. There's really just one option, right? We're just right? So the first thing we're gonna do is kind of like review the policy. So updated policy, it's not really a policy, it's the process, updated process. So the updated process is simply that we, for monthly budgets will be much simpler than quarterly budgets. So in that context, we want to keep everything more or less the same. So how much was the total for the last month's budget?
1334.
1334. All right, so we would just keep it at 1334, and then we would update it based on the people's changes in their budgets.
So a question, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
If we keep the same, are we supposed to do also the proposal forms? The options on the forms? Is it necessary to do it?
No, the options are no longer necessary unless we don't pass the keeping the budget the same. So if we can't keep the budget the
option
same,
passes again, are we going to consider the option or the just keeping the budget the same? I was thinking if we keep the budget the same, there is no need to do the forms again.
What do you mean the forms?
The voting form.
Oh no, the voting form still has to happen for HR board.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that always happens. So there is no budget. The only way to not have to do a voting form is if the HR board approves 3 months of budgets.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
As long as the budget doesn't change over the quarter, the budget is approved. But we only approved 1 month. Do you see the difference?
Yes.
So with the quarterly budget, the goal is to have 3 months approved, not just 1 month. So that'll simplify it even more.
Yeah. I think in future, as we move towards the quarterly budget, I think we'll be doing the HR board form for 3 months, to approve for 3 months. Then we just move with the same amount.
Yeah, but we still would be updating the budgets quarterly if there's any changes.
Yeah.
But if there's no changes, then you don't have to go to the HR board.
You understand?
So
So can you
let's take
check on the options I have?
So if we go into the simple ranked budget,
Mhm.
it should be 1,334, but it says 1,600.
That's just the options.
It's just
We have a
okay.
variety of options. Just go on the options.
So if we go to the options, we have 360, 1,000, 1,250, 1,500, 1,550, 1,600. So it looks like you missed the whole point, which is to keep everything the same.
So the options are correct, right? Slight
There are no
difference.
options. We're not doing the options anymore. Do you not remember me saying this? Or so there's no options necessary. All we have to do is just keep it the same so that it's simple. Do you understand the idea of keeping it the same?
So what are we sending to the HR board? Is it not the options we have, or we just repeat the options from last month?
There are no options. Get rid of the concept of options. Focus on just keeping the budget the same from the last month.
So that is what is supposed to go to the HR for voting.
Yeah, so the total is 1,334. So then you just plug that into the simple ranked budget.
Mm-hmm.
And then you figure out the totals of what the total would be. And remember, we're in the new time budget now. We're doing the new time budget.
Yeah.
So did you just not do it? It didn't get completed?
The new time is okay. It was just now the remaining part is to update with the amount. With the amount, the 1334. It's not complete for the new time budget.
Okay, so are we just on the same page that the work didn't get done? We didn't do it, right? It's just not done?
Now the question is like now for Abdul and Zonat.
Uh-huh.
Last time on the new time budget, they had 300, they had 180. Is it going to remain the same?
Who knows? You got to plug it in based on any changes people have to their monthly budgets. Does that make sense? If nobody made any changes to their monthly budgets, everything should stay exactly the same. There should be no difference. If people made changes to their monthly budgets, even one person, it'll change everybody's budget, potentially. Right?
Yes.
So let's note some of this down. So keeping the monthly budgets as close to the same each month. So the first thing is that you want to start with the same amount of money or the allotted amount for the month. So when we do quarterly budgets, we might say, okay, month one is equal to 1334, but then month two is equal to 1,300, right? So it could change from month to month depending on the budget, right? But either way, we're going to assume we're going to start with the same. So in this case, it's 1334 because that's the same amount that what we approved last month. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that if no workers make any changes and no workers are removed, then the budget should stay exactly the same for each individual worker. That make sense?
Yes.
So if we start removing workers or buddy teams, that we start changing things, then that would change the total amount, and then we'd be looking at options, right? If everything stays exactly the same. Nobody changes their budget. They don't change their lowest. They don't change their requested. Nothing changes. It should come out as exactly the same number. But I would still recommend doing the calculations just to make sure it comes out as exactly the same number. Does that make sense?
Yes. Now on the simple, like just 1334, then we just have the total for each MBT.
Okay, that's fine. So the question now would be, like, do you have any questions on how to do this for the new time budget?
Now, I have a question on that.
Uh-huh.
So the only person who changed the budget is only Lucy. She
Okay.
reduced to 300.
Okay.
Because like now for the new time, I think maybe will help me on that. How is it going to be? Because others have lowest with 200, 300, and others have 0.
What did you talk about for the lowest?
No, like, okay, like now, after fixing on the simple rank budget,
Uh-huh.
MBT, Lucy, and Joseph is coming now to 311 for their MBT. But their lowest is 200.
And so what's the question?
So the question is, about like last time. Question is on Abdul and Zonad. Last time we gave them 180. We doubled the amount, which was 90. We gave them 180, and this month they haven't worked. Are we still going to use the same criteria, or you are going to give them like 224.41, which we have now for this month?
We're using the same criteria in the context that we only need to budget them what they need in the budget. They're not working. They don't need to be budgeted the full amount, right? So I actually have been working on a new model for that. Let's see if I can find it. So I call these core responsibilities for workers, like core worker responsibilities. So basically, and this has to do with, more like worker coordination and worker onboarding and everything, but it relates to the budget as well. So the idea is that we should, maybe it's not core responsibilities, maybe it's just time budget. All right, so time budget. So the idea of the time budgets is that we want to work out what is the amount of time that each person gets based on the need for their sessions, right? So
Yes.
In my mind, I think we could get people scheduled down to as low as 1 hour, maybe, definitely no more than 2 hours, right? So for 2 hours, you basically get a main session and you got to get organized. More than enough time for not doing any work, right? So if someone has a no schedule, they just need to communicate on Skype and their main buddy team and maybe do their detailed intake like an hour a week, I think could be enough. Possibly 2 hours, right? But if they want to just schedule, then they can have 2.5 hours. They have to schedule at least 1/2 session, and then scheduling 2 sessions and choosing responsibilities, they can do 4 hours. And then if they get approved of the responsibilities and then start the responsibility organizing, they can do up to 7 hours, right? So, and then as they take on more responsibilities, they get more and more hours. They get 10 hours, 15 hours. It just depends on how many responsibilities you take on, how many hours you get to do. So in my mind, it would be, you know, either 1 hour or 2 hours. Maybe we should start with 2 hours, but basically if someone's not scheduled, that's a big problem. They can't work. So why budget
Like,
them?
for example, Teresa and Mamun, they are totally not even showing up for the sessions.
They don't communicate, there's nothing. So it's like we don't need to budget them any more than necessary. So in that context, before we said the minimum was 7 hours, but I was working it out to where the minimum could be much less than 7 hours and actually be as low as I don't know why it's
I have a question.
21 hours.
On our budget, I don't think when I have like requested 500, and here I can see it shows requested Buddy Team Luce and Joseph is 500.
You are requesting 300. Joseph is requesting 200 for the lowest, and you marked green. Commented, approved the budget on your MBT. Just go. That's the total of 2 people. And Joseph, I remember he said he's coming back on 5th, which means this month is supposed to be there. The total is 500 on your MBT. Yours is 300.
I
Joseph
see
is not requesting 0.
600.
600 how?
Joseph requesting 0 lowest and requesting 250 as
Just go to your MBT first.
requested. Then I request 350.
No, just check on your MBT February March budget and update on December. I think it was December.
Oh, our
Go on individual.
Feb March is $300 for $30 lowest. Then our Feb March is $600 for $40. Kindly find, just check our main body team, please.
I'm looking at it right now. So we have for
individual, just go on individual. February, March, 300 part-time for 15 hours. February, March, that is yours in green color. Go to Joseph,
So wait,
individual,
wait.
February, March.
Wait a second here. So looking at the combined for the main buddy team, this is a little bit confusing because it says May, June, July, August, September. I'm assuming this is 2018 is 550, and then it says April, May 800, March, April. Oh wait, here we go. So this is all 2018. Then it gets 2019 down here. So we just finished January, February. We're starting February, March, right? So it says 600.
Yes.
And the same for March, April.
600 for 40 hours. So you are requesting for how many hours? For how much? Because going to the individual, there's still confusion
It
here.
says 60 hours.
Check on
That would
the
be 30 hours each. When
So
is
individual.
Joseph supposed to start again? On the 4th? Or when is he supposed to start?
Check Balbina. For my February, March, 350 requested for 25 hours.
Where are you?
Also,
Approved
Lucy,
by Joseph. Can you check on my individual? You say
also,
that.
Lucy, if you
I
could
have
get this organized with the table of contents, like each of these should be a heading. So it should be January, February 2019 should be a heading, and then there should be a contents at the top so we can quickly go to the month that we're looking for. So this is a February, March 2019, requested 350 for 25 hours.
Is this not the information, or which one are you talking about?
I'm confused, Albina. What is your question, Albina?
No, my question is, is this not the information Lucy's talking about, or which one? Because this is what I can see.
For me, the issue is the verification. I mean, if the verification is not happening properly, that's a huge problem. So here it says February, March, full-time, 60 hours per week, right? But then here it says February, March, 350, which is not full-time. It's 25 hours a week.
Yeah, 25 hours a week.
Well, that means that there's a mistake, right? Because the main buddy team doesn't add up correctly and you have a problem.
Your MBT has more information because now I was using for 20.
No, where is the problem now? Let's just go one by one. Where is the problem? Why is it 500? We don't see anything like
Can
that.
you see my screen, please?
I have like 350 for 25 hours.
No problem, Lucy. We can change that because the budget's not final. So that's why I'm requesting. If you see my screen, this is the information I used.
So I don't know where you get what's wrong there now.
Can you see my screen? This is the information I used for you. I thought this is 2019. Then
No.
200 here.
There is
February, March.
no.
So no problem. We just have to fix it if there is a problem.
Okay.
Go to my doc, my personnel doc. I stopped putting on the main budgeting when they say there is no need for you to put in the.
You can see this is the MBT. And this is
the only thing is always is you can update it if on your personnel and you do combination on the main budgeting. That is how I stopped putting my budgeting, my own budget on main budgeting. I just put combined.
Then this one you should just indicate February, March 2018 if it is for 2018. Because when I go to the MBT and I find February, March, then I assume this is for 2019. If it's not specifically not used, you can just say this is the old one.
Even you assume, you cannot assume.
No, this is the information I exactly used.
The budget.
No problem. The budget's not complete. We can just fix everything. That's why we are here. We haven't even met before.
All right. So let's go through a couple things here because we obviously have some major issues. The first thing that I would say is an issue is well, overall the only issue is the budget verification. So the budget verification isn't happening, and this needs to go on our policy tracking spreadsheet, and also we can add it right here to our policy priority policies right here, not completed. All right. So, oh look, I just got a message from Robert. Just left you a message. Feel free for tomorrow, Thursday. Otherwise, let me know what time works for you. Oh, he just called. Okay, cool. So, main buddy team, Lucy and Joseph, Lucy Pop has no table of contents. So you need to add a table of contents and make every month's budget proposal a heading so that it is easily navigatable. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So at the top of Lucy's Pop, I should be able to just go here, you know, and like, I don't care where you want to put it. You can put it at the very, very top, or you can put it down further. It doesn't really matter, but you just insert a table of contents, and then I can just quickly and easily get to whichever month I want to, and they should all be organized by year. Right? Super simple. So here we have February, March 2019. Right? It's 25 hours. But then you go to the main doc, and it says 60 hours. So unless Joseph has 35 hours, it doesn't add up correctly, right? So for Joseph, he can't have 35 hours. So bottom line is that the main buddy team doc is not verified correctly.
Not 60 J. It is 40 hours. Not 60. Kindly check it well, please. It's not 60.
February, March 2019, 60 hours, full time.
On our main doc, is it on requested?
This is ideal. This is ideal. February, March, 40 hours. Okay, there it is. All right, so maybe it is correct for 40 hours.
So your total is 600 for 40 hours. It's just easy to fix. So no worries. Thing is completed here.
Okay, so maybe you're correct. So for the actual requested, we have February, March 2019 for 40 hours. So that would just go to Joseph's real quick and double check his.
So where can I fix the table of content, Jay?
Wherever you want to, just somewhere near the top.
Okay.
So for
Just
Joseph,
separate 2017, 2018. You can just put in the midst of 2019.
there we go. January,
Or
February
just
2019 is 15 hours. So it'll be 25 plus 15, 25 plus 15, and we end up with 40 hours. Okay, cool. So yeah, it's correct. So I mean, I think that it is correct in that it was just not organized perfectly, but then that means that everything's fine. All right. So there is no issue. We verified that it was calculated correctly for that. So the only other question at this point is, do you have everything you need to be able to do the budget? And when is Joseph supposed to get back?
we're supposed to be back today on the session.
So has anyone sent him a message?
No.
Okay, so let's put that as a task. The task, contact Joseph ASAP.
How can we start a table of content?
How do you what?
Just go to insert table of content down there. Just right click. You'll just see. It will take you there.
I don't see that.
Right click on the insert. Even just insert, then you go down.
Cool. And also, like, you don't need to do hours per year. That's just unnecessary. It doesn't give us any information that helpful. It's fine to leave it, but just in the future, it just creates clutter because there's already a lot of information. All right, so I think that we're ready to move on. Do you have any other questions, Albina, about the monthly budget, or do you need more help figuring out how to do it? Because this is we're gonna go into budget hard stop in a week if it doesn't get done.
No, I think it is fine.
I mean,
Even
we
though
went through all of this last month. We went through all of it in detail last month, so you could just rewatch the videos from last month.
Yes. My question was just on the new time budget, how to keep it the same as last month, but I think I understand it.
All right, are you sure? So ready to move on?
Yes.
Okay. Cool. But in the future, it should be really simple. You just plug in any changes to people's, budget requests.
Before we move on, the voting form.
Yeah.
We'll just have like the first option is to keep the same amount, 1334. Then another one we can do 1300.
Why?
Then 1350. Or we just how many options do we need on the
We
form?
just need one option. It's just the one option, keep everything the same, unless there's some reason we're not doing that.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right, cool. The policy that we actually are not following would be, and we can change people's budgets to 2 hours instead of 14 hours, or 4 hours instead of 14 hours per buddy team. That isn't active, but the other one is that we need to track who's ranked lowest and getting proposals for people, removing people from the budget. So that's a major problem that's not happening, and we need to figure out something there.
Lucy, how much is Joseph requesting for the lowest?
I think it's 0.
Joseph is requesting 0.
Okay, lowest is 300. No problem. Everything is going to be updated. Just confirm.
Okay, so how about when you get that updated, you let us know, okay?
Yes.
Just send a Skype message.
Yeah.
So, but what about the ranking lowest, people ranking lowest and getting removed from the budget?
So after I update the monthly, the simple, that is when I'll know which MBT is ranked low.
Okay, but that's a lot more than just that. It would be the other categories of rankings. So I think what we said is we're going to at least do it quarterly, but it does need to get done. So, maybe move this to quarterly. So if we don't do it this month, then we need to do it quarterly. Otherwise, it would count against the budget, and the budget would not be approved. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So are you going to help with that, or?
I am.
Okay, so let's go ahead and add
I think ranking is just based on the simple rank. Or which other category are we going to use for the ranking?
So there's a bunch of rankings. So there's HR ranking for actual pay, right? Actual pay. Then you've got,
is that the top actual ranking?
Percentage increase in pay. Strikes, right? What else are we doing? Percentage work hours versus budgeted hours. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so let's just add that to the quarterly budget for now. And then we also need to do the super team. I believe we only have the New World super team unless someone's planning on setting up a new super team for Old World.
No, we don't have enough for the.
So we still need this New World super team budget. It's probably going to be very similar to last month, so it should be pretty easy. Okay, so quarterly budget. So there's accounting, there's scheduling with me for the overall budget. We still are going to need to do monthly budgets and super team budgets, and then there's the budget rankings.
Can you check my responsibility organizing link
for accounting?
Mm-hmm.
This is not verify current funds in each account wallet for accounting purposes.
Mm-hmm.
Are you asking? Is this something that you did? What are you asking me to do?
My question is, I did. Is the goal correct? Is the responsibility correct?
Did you?
And which spreadsheet are we updating?
Did you write this?
Yes.
So you wrote this up?
Yeah, up to the related training videos.
I mean, I think that looks fine. I'm not sure about the responsibilities, though. It doesn't make sense. Are you saying these are sub-responsibilities? Update the internal accounting spreadsheet. Verify each account. How much does the net worth funds go? Quarterly budget updating after all accounts verified is done. So, I mean, the responsibilities don't make any sense. If this is a responsibility, then it is a responsibility, and you'd have step-by-step. What are the step-by-step goals? And then what is still missing, right? Next step to improve organizing. So there's still plenty of work to be done on this responsibility organizing. It's barely started. So I'm still kind of confused on your question.
My question is, okay, you said there is still a lot on the responsibility.
Do you understand what accounting is?
Yes, accounting is now to verify every account on the amount that is in the account and where the amount went, if and how the amount was spent.
No. There's nothing spent. Accounting is all about the present.
Verifying the amount in the account, the current fund in the account.
Yeah, just verifying the current amount of money in each account. So it's just where is all the money and how much is there?
So are we creating another spreadsheet, or we are using the Ambas accounting spreadsheet?
We might be using multiple, but that's like, it's not going to be accounts receivable though.
Because on the spreadsheet, I get that one, the Ambas accounts receivables verification, which was done up
internal
to
accounting
169.
Old accounting spreadsheet, accounting access spreadsheet. I mean, you can always create a new one if you want to, but I'm sure some. Oh, here, Ambas accounting spreadsheet. Create Ambas backend accounting spreadsheet. Active Rico legal arc accounting spreadsheet. Active Jello link to Canopy Funds accounting doc. So I mean, I would say we just want to do an overall, you know, overall Ambas Rico, like maybe we could do something like, you know, overall Ambas Rico QN accounting spreadsheet. But you can start with some of the existing ones. Or an even better way to do it, to keep it even more organized, is just break it up, right? So we could just quickly list where all the money is. So list of where there is money. So you have money in Ambas, right? You've got money in Rica. You've got money in you know, JBJC. You've got money in Innovate United LLC, Community Life Network, WCTC. I mean, I think that's pretty much it. Can you think of anything else? So if you do it like this, you could have a separate spreadsheet for each one, like a separate spreadsheet for Ambas, Rico, JCLC, United, right? And that would keep all the funds organized, and then you just have an overall spreadsheet that adds it all together.
Okay, so we have separate 6 spreadsheets, then we have the overall one.
Yeah, maybe we could add Canopy, which is just fine. Yeah, and then you could have overall, right? So overall, add them all together. So, I mean, I think this is pretty much, and some of this we're going to have to estimate because we just don't have time to go into detail on every single one, but we could do some pretty easy estimates, especially when it's only a couple dollars here and there. It's like there's no need to like waste a bunch of time on it. So, yeah.
So which month are we doing? The 158, or which month are we starting from?
There is no month. It's all present. Accounting is always in the present.
Okay.
So it's today. It's right now. When it's tomorrow, it's tomorrow. The next day, it's the next day. It's the present moment of accounting. So when you do accounting, you just, whatever is the date that you verified the amount of money in it, you just put the date. Right? So if I go to US Bank like this, US Bank. I think there's actually one other category that we could do, is we could do another category that's like non FQN / Eurocent. So this would be primarily sponsorship programs and companies, as well as like BZ extra mesh. Right. So there could be money that's just not our money, right? That we want to, that we might see, right? So when we go to US Bank, for example, we're going to see money that's not ours. right? So if there's money that's not ours, it doesn't help us to include it. So this would be the finances in US Bank based on today, right? So the date is February 4th. US Bank, February 4th. So another way to do it would be to organize it instead of by type of organization or umbrella, you could organize it by institution. So if we organize it by institution, every institution, like Wells Fargo, right? Wells Fargo, it's like all the funds in Wells Fargo are going to be seen in the same way. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So in that context, your accounting might be simplified. So instead of trying to get all of the UMBUS all organized, it's just like, screw UMBUS, let's just do Wells Fargo. Boom, here's all the Wells Fargo accounts. It's the current funds in Wells Fargo, and then organize them by the type of funds that are in it. Since all of the funds that are in those accounts will be exactly the same model getting those finances, right? Yeah, but remember, all this money isn't ours. Like, DS Richmond Slam's not ours. This is our money, not our money. This is our money. This is our money, not our money. This is our money. Okay?
Yeah.
So it just depends on which account it is, whether or not it's our money or whether it's someone else's money.
Yes.
So does that make sense or not?
It makes sense. Like JBGC, we still have other amount in the Wells Fargo. Are we combining together? We are just using the US bank separate from the Wells Fargo. We combine together. If, for example, the account is also existing in Wells Fargo.
There's going to be multiple different types of accounts in multiple different institutions, right? So we call it institution, right? So different types of banks, institutions, wallets, right? We call them institutions. So if you organize all the money by institution, then you would also need to organize it by organization, because most organizations have money in multiple institutions. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So you have to do both. But it might be easier to get the accounting done by institution first. So you'd have like Wells Fargo, US Bank, Stanford Federal Credit Union, Tech Credit Union, blockchain.info, MetaMask, my Ether wallet, and you have like local. Right, so I mean, I think this pretty clearly is like a pretty good list of the institutions that we're working with. There might be a couple other ones that I'm missing. You know, but that's a little bit simpler, right? Doing it by institution should be simpler than doing it by organization. Oh, I could have thought of another one. So you have finance. Anyways, I can help you with all of this. We can schedule a VAA session. How are we doing on time? I feel like we're doing really bad on time.
We are 5 minutes to the top of the second hour.
I know, but that's not meaning anything for our agenda item. So our agenda item's 10 to 15 minutes. So unless we know where we are in time related to 10 to 15 minutes, then we are lost in our time. Do we have any idea where we are for time?
We have gone beyond the time set for that topic.
So that would be another policy problem, that we aren't following the policies for the time tracking. So are we good on the quarterly budget?
Yes.
Cool. All right. So I think overall, my recommendation would be we do it by institution first.
Yeah.
And then after we do it by institution, then we break down the institutions into organizations and then organize it by organization. But technically speaking, to complete the quarterly budgeting, the minimum goal is simply 1 is our money, or 2 is not our money, right? So if it is our money, it counts. If it's not our money, it doesn't count, right? It's pretty much that simple. Oh, another one I thought of is PayPal. Oh, another one that we don't want to forget about is Payza, right? We got that $1,500 stuck in Payza. So we could include that as well.
You spend more time on that, Jen.
Just complete, then I move on.
I don't understand what you're saying, Lucy.
I say you spend more time on that.
You spend more time on that doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what you're saying. It's not a complete sentence. Not sure what you're talking about. I just don't understand what you're saying, Lucy. Hello, Lucy. So what I heard you say was you spend more time on that. That's all I heard. I don't know what that means. Do you know what that means, Albina? You spend more time on that.
Yes, you spend more time on the priority or the topic that you are in.
Again, I don't understand. I spend more time on the priority that I'm in?
I mean the topic that you are in.
Our current topic is the quarterly budget. Do you have other questions about the quarterly budget?
No. Is accounting among the quarterly budget?
Yes, accounting is the primary focus of the quarterly budgeting, right? The accounting tells us how much money we have. If we don't know how much money we have, we can't budget.
Okay. Go ahead then.
So our budgeting is all based off of how much money we have. We don't know how much money we have. We can't make a budget. All right.
Last question before we move on, Jay. On the quarterly budget, which month are we starting with? Is it this month or previous month? Or previous 3 months?
The quarterly budget is, so we're in, so we do half years, right? Half year is broken into 2 quarters.
Yeah.
So currently we're in the 70° east half year. So the first quarter of the half year was 70° east plus 158 west plus 136 west. That make sense?
This is the previous month and this current month.
No, the first quarter of the year is these 3 months. So we are now in at the beginning of the last month of the quarter. That makes sense?
Yes, yes.
So when's the deadline
So it is 70, 158, then 136.
No, what do you think what is the deadline for our quarterly budget? When is it due?
That should be the end of this month.
Yes, and so why would that be the due date?
Yeah, 70, 158, then 136.
So I'm going to add in the quarter here. So again, the quarter would be the same as the date of the half year.
Yeah.
So you would have the 70-degree east quarter, and then you have the 61-degree west quarter, and then you'd have the 109-degree west quarter. So the 70-degree east quarter includes the 70-degree east month, the 158-degree east month, and the 136-degree west month.
Yes.
The 60-degree west quarter would include 4 months because we have a leap month, or leap month, which only happens once every 2.5 years. Note that here, only happens every 2.5 years. So therefore, this particular quarter, we have 4 months. So we actually need to set our budget for 4 months instead of just 3, but it's the same process, right?
Yeah.
So we're creating it for the 61-degree west quarter. So we are currently, so the first quarter is actually the 70-degree east quarter. And this is the current quarter we're on, and we're creating the half-year budget. So focus on creating our quarterly budget for the 61-degree west quarter. I think that's correct. All right.
Yeah. Yes.
So the 61-degree west quarter includes the 61-degree west month, the 48-degree east month, the 161st-degree west month, and the 30-degree east month. So what quarter are we creating the quarterly budget for?
Pardon?
Which quarter are we creating the quarterly budget for?
Which quarter? We are on the first quarter of 70 degree.
Yeah, but what is the quarterly budget for? What quarter are we making the quarterly budget for?
70 degree east.
No.
Is it 61 degree west?
Yeah, so it'll be the 61-degree west quarter. So it's the future, right? So we're budgeting for the future. Accounting for the present, finances are for the past. And we're doing our present accounting so we know how much money we have so that we can project into the future and budget the future, which is going to be the future quarter, not the current quarter. It's the future quarter, which is the 61-degree west quarter, which consists of 4 moon months, the 61, 48, 161, and 30. Okay?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right, cool. So I'm glad that we went over the quarterly budget. Any other questions on that? Lucy, are you interested in working on the quarterly budget at all? Are you interested in working on the quarterly budget at all?
I can work.
Well, you're not particularly interested in it. You just might do it.
I'll work on that thing.
You are going to work on it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. so I think we are done. And you can start with adding this to can be your first for your spreadsheet. So if you just do accounting by institution, right? You just have different tabs for each institution. Make a tab for Wells for US Bank, and then boom, here you just update it right here. Boom, you got your first set of numbers to add. Right? So it should be pretty simple.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Silent. We thought you. Good.
All right, so why don't we take a break, and then when we come back, we can do some Beyond Super Hard Stop, and then we probably need to wrap up and check out unless you want to keep going. We'll just have to see how much longer we want to do. But we've gone 2 hours now, so at this point, we probably should start wrapping up. But yeah, if we want to do another hour, we could try. We'll just see. All right.
Yeah, let's take a break then. We
All right,
can.
5-minute break.
I'm back.
All right, I'm pretty much back as well.
I'm back.
Did you all have any questions about the Beyond Super Hard Stop Taxes Hard Stop doc?
I don't really know what is it all about.
What does that mean?
Beyond super honest.
It's about doing work. What is the question? What do you not understand?
Is it the same spread, the same doc you updated for the super hard stop priorities, or this is the different one? Beyond.
It's a different one.
Okay, JC, now you come up with the Beyond Hard Stop. Are we still going to update some stuff, hard stuff status?
I mean, we haven't been doing that for a while. We only need to update that if it affects something, one of our priorities. So if there's a priority that we missed, we would want to update that.
I think it is always good to update on that. It also helps to track where we are.
So are we updating the Beyond Hard Stop priorities or the Super Hard Stop priorities on the HS spreadsheet status?
Our new focus is Beyond Super Hard Stop. The tax
What about the
hard stop doc.
What about the spreadsheet for hard stop?
The status spreadsheet?
Yes.
Again, unless it meets a specific goal, you shouldn't do the work. You know, you never want to do work just for the sake of doing work. It always should be for a goal.
It's always for goal. When we are doing status, it will help us to determine the sub-stop and to see also where we are. Are we getting some other priorities or responsibilities done? It's always tracking, at least for me, I see always better. Since you say it is not really a necessary priority, coming up with even a beyond super hard stop, I think it's not gonna be easy. It's not going to track everything. When we update the status, it will track everything that is not getting done as an organization.
All right, so let's go to where that would be. So I organized it by billable client work. So billable client work is always our top priority because if we don't do billable client work, then we don't bring money in to be able to pay people. Then you've got billable umbus work. Billable umbus work basically would be internal operations, right? So we have our monthly budget, running umbus, and then number 3 can be worker coordination / hard stop coordination. So if we weren't on hard stop coordination, it would just be normal worker coordination. Because we're on hard stop, it is hard stop coordination. So basically the goal would be to update this beyond super hard stop doc slash taxes. Hard stop. The only reason to review the soft slash hard stop status spreadsheet is to see if there is a specific new additional priority that needs to be added to the stock. Maximum, maybe 5 minutes. Does that make sense, Lucy?
For me, it makes sense, but not that much because yes, you update the beyond hardest. Okay, but I think for me, I feel like that spreadsheet is always very much helpful to get the information that we update on beyond hardest. It always tell which priority or responsibility is not done.
Yeah, which is the majority of them at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so most of our priorities aren't done, right? So looking at the status update is just going to show us more of us not getting the work done. So the point is the goal, right? The goal is to know what the most important hard stops are that we need to focus on and get the work done. Right? Does doing the soft stop, hard stop, updating status spreadsheet get any work done?
How is it going to determine? Because before it was determined by when we are updating the spreadsheet. You will know exactly by this date and this date we are on hard stop, we are on soft stop. This is on over hard stop, past hard stop. So now, how are we going to just update, or we just look at it? We say this is not done.
Look at what?
You just go and check on the priorities on hard stop, and you tell this is not yet done, or like that.
What I'm saying is that there's no need to go to the soft stop status spreadsheet because the work's not done there, and it's like there's nothing else to see. All the priorities are on this doc, right? So I think I have it linked here at the top, the status spreadsheet. So if you go here to the status spreadsheet, you can look at it, but it's not going to tell us anything new, right? So if you go here, you can organize it by date, and you can say, okay, it's past January 15th. So maybe these are now in hard stop, right? Because it hasn't been updated for a while, but this is all the same stuff. It's just the 1099s, super team budgets. I mean, this is all basic stuff. January 14th. So maybe all the way down to here, responsibly priced super team budgets, new moon payroll, owner's payroll, Jay's personal support. Again, I mean, I just don't see anything in here that is different. Overall quarterly budget, tracking, announcing, code shift, full moon, invoicing, accounts receivable, selling calendar verification, telling results, and certification. I just don't see anything that's like applicable.
Okay.
So that's all that we'd be here. I mean, most of this is all past deadline. So it's just trying to figure out what else is here that's super duper important that we don't want to forget. But we aren't able to do any of this work. None of this work is getting done, right? There's just no way all this work can get done. It's impossible. And this is only like less than a tenth of all the work that needs to get done. We can't even do a tenth of the work. Do you understand?
Yes.
So our focus needs to be on not doing soft stop, hard stop, priority spreadsheet updating. That's not going to get anything done. So it's just not going to help. You understand?
Yeah.
What we need to do is need to focus on our priorities, like taxes, and making sure we're getting our external client work done. You know, doing our quarterly budgeting. So for this, I just got a call from Robert, so we need to call him back, right? As soon as we're done with this session, so someone should remind me to do that. So this is all the priority work. So are there any questions about the billable client work?
No.
I don't know which billable client work do you have.
Vienna taxes. They're on the beyond doc.
All right, let's step back a little bit and go through some of the policies if there's some confusion here. So all the policies are the same for all hard stops, except that main sessions will continue, but will eventually get more and more condensed and focused on the hard stop work. So there really shouldn't be much more we need to talk about in main sessions as time goes on, and we need to be focused on the work more and more. This is a major problem. Current assigned self-responsible responsibilities. We need to create the spreadsheet and be tracking people's self-driven responsibilities. That is a huge problem that's not getting done. So that would also go under worker coordination. So if someone can do that, that'd be great. Lucy, we do want to go over your top priorities so that we know what they are. Albina, have you working on quarterly budget accounting? I don't know if you want to work on client deadlines. I'm not even sure if that's necessary.
Can still continue on that
Tabulation.
if it is necessary.
Lucy definitely is going to be doing payroll. Dealer's working on taxes, scheduling reminders, session reminders. Maybe selling calendar.
I'm still doing the scheduling also. Basil also need to communicate on taxes. So if there is scheduling and working together, is also important to move everything forward.
So, are there any? So, what else are you working on, Lucy? All right, so we want to prioritize, Lucy, you having clarity on your responsibilities and priorities. Maybe you could help us with the worker coordination and getting the spreadsheet with the updated self-driven responsibilities. That would be extremely helpful if you want to work on that. All right, any other questions about self-driven responsibilities? Do you understand, Albina, the self-driven responsibilities?
Yes.
Yeah.
Client deadline, I'm saying I'm working on that. Why are you putting Lucy? Let's clarify on priorities.
Because I just asked you. I asked you what you were going to be working on.
You asked me what?
Just now. I just asked you.
You just asked me, JD. You already justified there. Please, Lucy, let us know what you are working on.
Yeah, I just wrote that there, and I'm asking you right now, what are you working on? So I have here payroll client deadlines. This should be per client, so client deadlines is not particularly helpful, but I'll leave it here. I'm going to put it crossed out. Payroll also is pretty much, up to date, which is good, but we will be changing it. So the question, what?
DS.
So for the digital storytellers, it's going to be VAA work. For digital storytellers and what is it? So this is Bay Area Creative Digital Storytellers sponsorship. So it's mainly VAA and management work. So if you want to do some of the management, you can, or you can schedule for VAA. Say again?
So that means I should not work on that then?
Not until we call back Robert and review what's going on with that and then review it together. It's on our agenda to review it together. Or we have to schedule, which would be VAA work, to schedule and go over it together to see what our next steps are.
Okay.
So is there anything else that you would like to do?
So most of the things are obvious. So I don't know what I should do.
I just don't understand what you just said. It just is, I couldn't even understand that word. I don't understand.
Everything that if I can choose it need.
You're saying you don't know?
Yes, because when I say I wanna work on the DS admin, it's virtual more system, and beyond I don't know this. I don't really know what I should do then. Because most of the thing needs you, unless maybe we'll do a little bit on budget. I don't see anything that I can do.
So quarterly
budgeting.
Quarterly budgeting?
Yeah.
Okay. That'll be extremely helpful. I mean, the quarterly budgeting could take a week or more. Who knows how long that's going to take? So, again, the most important thing is that you just choose something. There is we have at least 16 priority client work, all paid client work. And we've got at least 6 billable unbus work, right? Plus unbillable work. So the point is that there's plenty of work to do. You just need to choose what you want to do.
They're not plenty, Jay. Most of the work if you choose, maybe if you ask question, you got so much you're wasting my time, So if I choose something that maybe at the middle I forget to do it, it's gonna be a problem to me.
Okay, so this sounds like an issue. Let's add it to our issues list. So I'm hearing that I'm wasting your time. New issue, Jay is wasting Lucy's time.
No, I'm not. You're not wasting my time. You are saying I'm wasting your time. Most of the time, if I ask question, it look like you are not. You are helping me when I'm asking. You say I'm wasting my Lucy. I think, according to me, when you ask question, we help each other as. I'm just helping you, wasting my time. That me really. Most of the priority that I can do, maybe I will ask a question. I will still have to waste your time. It is like you are helping me, but instead saying we are helping the organization, it become like a personal thing.
Okay.
It's
So,
a bit harder.
Okay. Well, I think that
I'm willing.
I think that this is the core problem in our team is that we have tons of work to do, all of this work to do, and we need to get it done. If you don't feel capable of doing it, you should help us with recruitment to get people who can help us with it, right? So a lot of this work is also included as VAA work. Anyone could do VAA work, anyone could do management. So why don't you want to help out with VAA work and virtual assistant work and management work? Because we have lots of that, and it's really, 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 really important, right? So somehow we need to get past that and figure out how we're gonna make all this work. Okay, so anyways, let's just put here that Lucy needs to learn more about VA and management work, and also choose more priorities and responsibilities. Okay. Does that sound good for now? And we'll keep going over it. And then we can talk more about it on Tuesday, tomorrow as well, during our issue session.
Okay. No problem.
Okay, but for now, your main priority and responsibilities would relate to quarterly budgeting, and accounting. So if you're going to help out on institutional accounting, you would just go through each institution. You could start with Wells Fargo and U.S. Bank and list out all the finances for each one so that we can document and record all of the money we have in every institution. All right?
Okay.
All right. But there's so much more you could help out on, Lucy, if you want to. You just need to do what needs to get done and be asked, right? So a lot of it is scheduling, right? We need people to schedule to sit down and go over it. So what I was thinking about doing, unless there's any other questions on the self-driven responsibilities, I mean, it looks like no one's willing to create the spreadsheet and help organize the self-driven responsibilities, which is very, sad for me. I mean, I don't know why we don't just get that done. I mean, I think I've asked for it at least 10 times. But anyways, if there's no more questions about the self-driven responsibilities, we can go on to the
which spreadsheet is that, Jay? A new spreadsheet?
Yeah, we need a spreadsheet for listing all of our self-driven responsibilities because this is
We
just
have a
priority.
self-driven spreadsheet. Which is we have it, the old one. Which one again?
I don't have it, so I don't know where it is. We can use the old one or we can create a new one, but it needs to be updated.
We can have a self-driven responsibility.
Time is up for that topic.
Well, we have a lot more to go. We're not done yet, so let's do another 10 minutes, okay?
Okay, fine.
I think we're getting caught up a lot in, I mean, I don't understand exactly what we're getting caught up in, but we should just do it. We should just get the work done. So do you guys have any questions about the self-driven responsibilities? Do you understand? And I think Lucy can continue to help out with the worker coordination, right? Right, Lucy?
Yeah.
Right, and just make sure we have a spreadsheet and we can start listing all of the self-driven responsibilities. These are not responsibilities; these are priorities.
I'm just searching.
All right, let's move on. Are we ready to move on, or is there any other question about self-driven responsibilities?
On the beyond superharitor responsibilities, I don't know the priorities. Most of the priorities here we cannot do without you, Jay.
Well, then schedule with me. What's the big deal? Why is it a big deal to schedule with me?
Quarter budget, recruitment, except that, then database, MVP, J support, J and J support, executive, Jaran, J worker, Rico client. So
yes,
which one?
These are all very important client work priorities that aren't getting done. We need to get them done.
need you. You know, that's a
great.
bigger problem.
Schedule with me. Let's schedule and get it done.
Okay.
It shouldn't be a big deal that something needs me. I work like 40 hours a week, you know? So it's like I'm available. Do you understand? Or is it a problem that I would be involved in something?
I understand. What about running numbers? What is it all about?
What? What about what?
Running numbers.
There is account receivable.
I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, running Umbus. Yeah, we'll go through that in a little bit, okay?
Okay.
So as long as there's no more questions on self-driven responsibilities, let's go into the mini glossary term, okay? So I really want to quickly go over types of work and components of the billable work, because I feel like this is really important for everyone to understand. Also, can we make sure that we track this in our video indexing? So under our video indexing, we would be in work organizing. So this would be part of work organizing and worker coordination. Okay. So types of work. So there's virtual assistant work. So virtual assistant work is very, very important. And for some reason, I don't think people understand it. And we've been having a lot of problems with this. But basically, when you get basically the focus is scheduling. So the primary responsibility is to scheduling with the person you are assisting. And we're going to call it real time. And then during the session, you focus on supporting and assisting the person you scheduled with. So in other words, like, you don't have to do the work. It is more like apprenticing and learning, supporting, and helping focus. So we need to do a lot more training on virtual assistant work, but do you guys understand the general basic of virtual assistant, real-time virtual assistant work?
Not really. You have been saying you will train us on that.
All right, so I mean, we can do more training on it if you want to, but it shouldn't be very complicated to understand the general idea, right? So
I think it is all about doing the actual work, like helping you, supporting you accomplish your responsibility.
Not exactly. Let's go where we are. Also, I want to remind you all that we have to start doing this. And we're going to start counting against it eventually, but you got to update the table of contents constantly so that we get all of our updated place to actually do the links to where we are in the budget, right? And where we are in each topic. So, all right. So beyond super. So the idea here would be work organizing terms, right? So let's just do like 10 minutes on some virtual, like work organizing terms and virtual. So it's going to be real-time virtual assistant work. Okay. We call it VA, virtual assistant work. All right. So basically, the primary responsibility is scheduling, right? So you're scheduling with the person you are assisting. So it doesn't just have to be me, right? You guys could schedule to get assistance from other people as well. During the real-time work session, this would be a buddy team session, the role would be of a virtual assistant focused on helping to keep us focused on the priority work. So who makes the priority work? Who decides what is the priority work?
The person you're assisting.
Exactly, the person you are assisting. So 99.9% of buddy teams are focused on helping and supporting the worker to complete their work. So for example, if me and Albina got on a buddy team together, 99.9% of the time, we would focus on Albina's priorities, the quarterly budgeting and accounting, client deadlines, tabulation, payroll, whatever Albina needed to work on, it would drive the focus of the buddy team because Albina would ask question after question after question, helping her get the work done. That's 99.9% of buddy teams. And that is not virtual assistant work. Do you guys see the difference?
Yeah.
So virtual assistant work is doing and helping the person you are assisting focus on the work that they need to do to move forward. Does that make sense, Lucy?
Yeah.
So what are other types of buddy teams? Right, so obviously we have virtual assistant buddy teams. Virtual assistant, right? We've got self-driven buddy teams. So this would be basically a buddy team where self-driven work. Self-driven work? I don't remember. Oh no, self-driven responsibilities where each person is working separately. It's like almost 100%, almost 99% silent because you're working. So you don't even have to be on the buddy team together. You're basically just, you're on the buddy team together, but you're working on your self-driven responsibilities. So, and you're each working on something separate. If you're working on the same thing, it would be called, actually, let's make sure we get the vocabulary correct. So we want to go to our buddy team policies. Let's get our
5 minutes left on that.
Cool. So let's get our buddy team policies real quick so that we have this correct, because we should all know the types of work. Do you guys have the link to all the work policies? Single buddy team policies. Here we go. All right, so these are the buddy team positions. And you can see below it should have the details on each one. Here we go. Real-time buddy team positions. And again, there's also individual work. Is there any other questions on individual work? You guys understand the individual work? So that's individual work is when you're working alone. So individual work is not self-driven responsibilities, right? So self-driven responsibilities is where you're working on your own work and everyone's doing their own responsibilities. So it's basically 100% silence, right?
What about, you say it's not the same as self-driven, it's not the same as individual? Why?
Because individual work is any time that you're working alone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So individual work can happen during a buddy team. It can happen on your own. You could be scheduling. You could be talking on Skype. You could be sending an email. You could be, trying to write an email to your main buddy. It could be anything. Watching.
What if someone
video,
is doing individual work and at the same time it's self-driven?
Then that would be individual work that's being done as a self-driven responsibility. Right? But you can do self-driven work as a buddy team if you have two people who are working together on a self-driven responsibility. Plus, once you have a self-driven responsibility, you can train other people on the self-driven responsibility. So you can do self-driven responsibilities in buddy teams. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. So assistance support is the virtual assistance work that we went over, right? So virtual assistant support, VA. Dual work position is where you have two workers working on the same thing at the same time. Payroll verification. So you have two people doing payroll verification. You're both working on the same responsibility at the same time, the same spreadsheet. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If you're doing multi-work position, this would mean that you have two people working on a similar responsibility or priority, and they're working on it simultaneously, but the two workers have different responsibilities, right? So for example, you could have one person working on payroll verification and another person working on pay hours and tracking, like time tracking. So if someone's tracking the time and then you're doing the verification immediately after they do the time, you could go through each individual person all the way through the list. Another example would be running payroll. Running payroll, you have very different roles where the treasurer is doing the payments and then the other person is doing the real-time finances of the payroll. So there's multiple responsibilities, but working on the same priority. So it's called a multi-work position, where you're able to get more work done than if you did it by yourself. And it saves a lot of time and it's very, very efficient. Another could be ranking. So we could all get on the hangout and work on rankings together, but each of us could work on a separate ranking. Someone could work on election rankings, someone could work on HR rankings, someone could work on overall rankings. So you could have people working on separate responsibilities, even though it's all part of the same priority and you're all working together, but technically you're working on separate goals. Another example could be percentage admin fees. If I'm doing percentage admin fees for Spark and you're doing percentage admin fees for digital storytellers, it's two separate percentage admin fee foci, but we're doing it at the same time. So that would be multi-work together, okay?
Yeah.
So these are basically all of the main buddy team positions. There is a new one, which is part of the personnel support buddy team. So personnel support buddy team is a new one, but we'll get into that some other time. All right?
Yes.
So are there any questions about the types of scheduling work or any other questions about virtual assistant work?
So now, seeing that the virtual assistant is someone that can help, but in this case, sometimes you find out that you don't understand something and you need help from
Yeah, you do not need to understand anything because you are not doing the work. You're assisting. The person who's doing the work is the primary worker. If you're an assistant, you're not working. You're not doing the work. You're assisting. So if you don't understand something, that's okay. You only need to understand something if you yourself have to do the work. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
So to do self-driven responsibilities, you got to understand the work. To do a dual position, you got to understand the work. To do multi-work position, you got to understand the work. Right? But to do virtual assistance, you do not need to understand the work. Right? An example would be writing constitutions. If I'm writing a constitution, you do not need to understand the legal premise behind the writing the constitutions and the articles of incorporations and how to set up a corporation and what it means to write different articles and constitutions and how they interact legally with other organizations. You don't need to understand any of that because I'm the one doing the work. Your focus is to assist me in staying focused and getting the work completed. So the more that you ask questions and get on tangents, the opposite of being a virtual assistant is the case. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So now that like responsibility schedules with the person you assist. What happened if I schedule with you? So I'm just going to be silent there like that, or to allow you work, or I should work on something else.
I don't understand what your question is. What is your question about what?
On schedule with the person you are assisting.
Yeah.
Well, so if I schedule with you, what am I going to do? Because I
Well,
should not
the
ask
first thing you're
questions.
going to do is schedule, right? The first thing you're going to do is schedule with me for virtual assistant time. If you don't even schedule with me for virtual assistant time, it's just not worth even an ounce of my effort to try to explain anything to you. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It's like schedule. That's your responsibility, is to schedule for the virtual assistant time to do the work. At that time, we can figure out how we want to, depending on the whatever, that there's hundreds of possible virtual assistant responsibilities and priorities. Every single one is going to be different, right? In relationship to how the assistant is going to be helping, what they're going to be doing, you know. But trust me, if it doesn't matter how complicated the virtual assistant work is, right? The most complicated thing, like constitutions and articles and all that stuff, the legal stuff, it doesn't matter how little you know. If you are assisting over the course, it could take years. It could take 3-5 years, but eventually, if you continue to assist and help with it, you will learn it. But you're going to learn it through watching, like an apprentice. It's more of like an apprentice relationship where you just are there to support and observe and watch, right? Not to ask questions and learn, because that is training for doing the work yourself, right? This is not about doing the work yourself. There's no time to train you on how to do the virtual assistant work. A lot of times virtual assistant work will turn into responsibilities, both dual and multi-work position responsibilities, and eventually even self-driven responsibilities. So, you know, a lot of times you have to start with the virtual assistant works to actually organize the information to the degree to be able to train someone. And that's part of the virtual assistant work is setting up the trainings, right? That's potentially something we could even add. But it's easier to just set up the trainings within each individual priority.
Time is up for that.
So sometimes apprentices will observe for years and years before they're taught certain things. You know, they'll just see it in action, but they don't actually get the training on it until they're ready. So anyways, are there any other questions about virtual assistant work? Because this is really important. It's the primary thing we hire everybody to do, and nobody seems to understand how to do it. You know, it never happens. And I think this is one of the biggest problems.
So like when we planned to schedule with you yesterday, and unfortunately to fall during off time, and you say we can go through mission within during new moon. So is that still a virtual assistant work? I think that is like distracting you.
I remember us talking about going through the percentage admin fee, or the new structure transition. That's what I remember. I don't remember a mission within.
I also mission within, yes.
But maybe during the session, that virtual assistant really, or that is training maybe, because nothing actually is being done. Virtual assistant is just doing the real work, supporting someone to complete the work.
Is that a question? What's the question?
No, I'm trying to say, like, for example, if we say, let's schedule and go through during the new moon session, is that really the work going to be done, or we are going to go through the training?
Right now we're doing training. Everything here is training.
Okay.
So right now we're training on someone how to do virtual assistant work, since we don't seem to be very able to do that. So for mission within, if we go, let's like take a look at mission within real quick. So we go down here, mission within. So for mission within, we have VAA work to schedule with Jay. We've got management work for setting the deadlines and priorities, and then there may be primary voting forms work. So for the voting forms work, currently, you might need to do some VAA work first, but currently it's not necessarily a priority at this moment in time. But there is primary work of doing the voting forms that people could help with.
Okay, that was what I Skype with you. Yeah, you're available to have that. The same, there's a virtual assistant, and you can do it through this. I think I Skype if you can check like many times about that.
That's great. That's exactly what you're supposed to be doing, is sending Skype messages about scheduling for virtual assistant work if that's what you want to work on. Yeah, you can also do management. There's a lot of management work that needs to get done for pretty much every single client. So is there any other question regarding that? I mean, just because we don't schedule, it's not a bad thing. Scheduling is not easy. Okay, so you don't give up. Don't ever give up. It's just like, oh, I'm not available today. Oh, so then you just give up? You know, it's like, no, every single day we keep trying to schedule. You just never stop. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's what we're paying people to do. And you need to track your hours. When you're on Skype trying to get to schedule, that is work. It's not easy, actually. Scheduling is one of the hardest things, right? So you track your hours, and then you do it again the next day, and you just keep trying to schedule over and over again, and you get paid to do that. That's what we're paying you to do, is to schedule and to support and doing the virtual assistant administrative work and the other work that needs to get done, self-driven responsibilities, all of it. All of it is what we're paying people to do. There's nothing I talk about that is for free. It's all part of the work that we're paying you to do. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And scheduling is not easy at all, right? Just because any one day we're not available doesn't mean the next day we won't be available. All right, so
We are at the top of the third hour.
okay, well, I think we really do need to wrap up, but if you guys want to try to do another hour, we could take a break here. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Do you have something very important that we can go through? Maybe we can just go through and wrap up.
I just want to finish. I just want to finish this with what I'm going over.
Okay.
Let's take a break, then we come maybe for 30 minutes or so.
Okay, we're gonna take a 5-minute break, and then we'll try to do like 15 or 20 minutes, and then wrap up and check out. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm back.
Oh, I'm also back.
Me too.
Cool. All right, so my goal is I just want to get through this mini glossary of terms for the work organizing so that this part's done. It's the only part missing. Then I want to make sure we are good on our billable umbus work. And most of it's all pretty good. I think there's just a few things that are off, like getting these numbers correct. And then from there, we'll just check out. Okay. So this is important to make sure that all of our priorities are organized and clear so that everybody knows what to be working on. All right. So vocabulary. Virtual assistant work. Do we all understand the virtual assistant work?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. And I also want to make sure I don't forget to copy all of this information back to the policies doc. Oh no, I lost it. So we don't lose the information. All right, here we go. Perfect. All right. VAA. What does VAA stand for?
Virtual assistant.
No, that would be VA. VA is virtual assistant. VAA is virtual administrative assistant. What do you think virtual administrative assistant means?
It is assisting.
What is administrative work?
Setting the meetings.
No. Basically, administrative work would be thinking about kind of like operations.
Okay.
So basically anything that involves operations, whether it's client work or not, it's basically administrative work. So most of the work that we do happens to be administrative work, management work, all of that. Okay. VEA. Is that VEA, VPA, VWA? No, you guys have no idea. Just
virtual personal assistant is it?
Virtual personal assistant. So this is helping focus on personal life, family, and other priorities that typically get in the way of focusing on work priorities. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So VWA is virtual worker assistance. This is focusing on worker support to help with various priorities as well as policies required for all workers, including work reporting and other functions. Okay, so or work reporting. Yeah. Cool. Does that make sense in terms of virtual worker assistance?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if I'm hiring a worker assistant, it would be someone to help me with my work responsibilities, as a worker, right? Whereas when we hire a virtual administrative assistant, it's someone to focus on working on the administrative roles. VEA is virtual executive assistant, so this would be the highest level, executive assistants. And this would be focusing on executive work, including what would be executive work?
Meetings.
No, everything's meetings.
Client work.
Everything is client work, right? This has nothing to do with whether it's client work or not. This is just how you define the type of
decision making.
Decision making, high level decision making, planning, planning, and strategic direction, right? So it's like really high level. Okay.
Yeah.
So these are the different types of virtual assistant work. So currently I have 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. All right. SDR, what's this? Do you have any questions about the different types of virtual assistant work?
No.
All right, SDR.
Self-driven responsibilities.
Self-driven responsibility. And what is a self-driven responsibility?
Something one can complete without asking a question.
Work that can be completed on one's own. You can still ask questions.
Okay.
But the questions should be on details, not on what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So someone should understand what they're doing, understand the goals. There might be questions that come up, then you can ask the questions, but overall they understand what they're doing. All right, so this is the focus of most work. And then all other work happens within sessions and training, right? So sessions and training would be like, group sessions or buddy teams where you are learning and working together, including main sessions where most training gets. I guess the other type of work would be communications. Typically offline on messaging, Skype, email, etc. So that's still work, right? So communication is still a type of work, but it's not. Right, so currently you have 4 types of work. There's virtual assistant work, there's self-driven responsibility work, sessions, training work, and then communications. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, can anyone think of any other type of work?
I don't know whether we have another type.
Cool. So in any buddy team, typically there would need
what about training someone?
One person who has a self-driven responsibility in order for the buddy team to function. If not, then the buddy team would watch training videos. Does that make sense? So basically, to have a functional buddy team session, you would need at least one person who knows what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
All right. Say again, Albina. What was the question?
What about training someone?
That would be a training session. So normal sessions or training could be either group sessions or buddy teams where you're learning and working together, including a main sessions where most of the training get in, right? So in a buddy team, where you're doing work, usually you have at least one person who knows what they're doing. Otherwise, it's really training. Does that make sense? Because then you're watching training videos, you're trying to figure out, it's a lot easier to figure out something together as a buddy team than it is by yourself. That makes sense?
Yes.
So even if you're in a buddy team, you're trying to get work done, you don't really know what you're doing, it's okay because you can work together to learn during your buddy team work session. And you still get paid for that because it's still work. All right, any other questions about the types of work? All right, so let's go on to the components of billable work. Every single priority always has management. Management is super duper key. Management happens before everything else. Without management, you're missing like everything, right? You're just like, before you can manage anything, you have to have executive decision making. Because there has to be some sort of legal framework in order to manage something. And if you're not thinking about it, then it's just happening automatically because there's always some type of legal framework, even if you're not thinking about it. So for management, what is management? How would you define management?
Manager is just giving the direction
No.
on what will be done.
No. That would be training and session training.
Monitoring the
Doing coordination and strategy, giving settings of the strategy on what is supposed to be done.
Coordination on what is supposed to be done. No strategy. So what is you coordinating? What is the coordination that needs to get done on what is supposed to be getting completed?
Let, for example, well, maybe if the manager is in charge of finance, it's making sure that the finance are getting well done, well organized.
Okay, so that's not exactly correct. It's basically just checking in on the status of where the organization and work is. So the management doesn't do the work. So you're not responsible for getting anything organized or doing any of the work. You're just responsible for knowing whether or not the work is getting done. Right? It's a status update. And then furthermore, you would set deadlines. You could help set deadlines and make sure and send reminders out, right? And do reminders to make sure workers aren't forgetting about priorities. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So a manager would know what the work is that needs to get done, when is it supposed to get done by, and reminding people to do the work. They don't actually need to know anything else. They don't need to be able to organize it. They don't need to know what the work is. They don't need to know anything. All they need to know is the term, right? They literally only need to know the phrase or vocabulary term to describe the work. That's all you need to know. If you know the vocabulary term to describe the work or the responsibility, the name of the responsibility, then you can talk to someone about it. Have you done it? Is it complete? What percentage complete is it? And you know the status. You can, what is it due by? When is it supposed to happen? You need to do this next week. Reminder. Did you do it yet? Did you do it yet? Did you do it yet? Right? Does that make sense?
Yes.
And you might not have any idea what the work is, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to know what the work is. All you need to know is how to describe the work and when it needs to get done by, and send a reminder. All right, and then ask for the status of that work so you can update the status report. Any questions about management?
No.
All right, relations. Relations is simple. This is basically, you know, who is giving the money for the budget? What is the agreement around the money? And what needs to be completed to get paid? All right, so that's the relations. Typically, this is proposals and agreements. All right.
Yeah.
Typically, I'm the only one who works on this. It just is what it is. So, of course, you do the management first. You can manage relations. So management coordinates, oh my God, we can't forget the relations. We need to get our proposal and agreement done by this deadline so we can get it in the budget and make sure that we get paid next month. Right? So relations is something that you manage. Then once you have your management that sets up your relations, you get agreement to get paid money, you got to start doing the work. But before you can do the work, you got to organize the work. So you have work organizing. So this includes client organizing, responsibility organizing, work organizing, etc., to make sure we know what we are doing, our goals and steps before we even try to get the work done. So before we start doing work, we get organized first. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Is there any questions about work organizing the work? So then the primary work is the actual work that needs to get done. So if you're an assistant, you're not doing any primary work. You're only assisting the person to focus on the person who is the primary worker. Right? So this is the actual work that needs to get done. I mean, what else is there to say about that? Do you have any questions about primary work? You understand?
We understand.
And this is what you get paid for, right? This is what you get paid for. So reporting, invoicing, what's that?
Reporting invoicing is now billing on what exactly you've done.
Yeah, that's good. So we're billing on what we've done, you know, and then we are doing accounts receivable, and making sure that we receive the funds so we can pay our workers. All right, that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So these are the 5 components of billable work. So only one of the 5 components, 20%, is actually doing the work. And this typically involves output and or deliverables. All right?
Yes.
So this is the focus of all billable work, always, but it is the last part of it. You got to manage the work. You got to make sure you have relations, proposals, and agreement to get paid before doing the work. You got to organize the work so that before you do the work, you actually know what you're doing. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. Then you do the work, the actual primary work, and then you bill for the work. This also includes tabulation, right? Tabulation to organize bus. Cool. And these are in order. This happens in a specific order. You always do management first, and then you work your way down. So actually the primary work is always the 4th part. 4th thing that you do, not the first thing. And then you do your reporting and invoicing last. So even when you're on 2, 3, 4, and 5, you're still managing. So you manage 2, 3, 4, and 5. You're always managing. You're always you're doing relations, everything, right? So it's all interrelatable. Is there any other questions on the components of billable work? Because this is really important to understand, because mostly when I talk to you guys and talk to other people, they only focus on number 4. and they just don't understand that there's much more than just doing the work. And I think this is like one of the biggest problems we have with our entire network and organization is people just don't understand what we're doing, right? You're only looking at 20% of the picture, right? We need to see the whole picture so that you understand what's going on, including recruitment. So we're ready to move on. So the billable client work. What's billable client work and what's billable unbus work and unbillable assigned work? What?
What's the difference between billable client work and ambas work? Billable ambas work.
So client work can include unbus work, but client work is for funds that come in as income. So basically it's income, right? Income is required to pay people to do internal operations. Unbus work is internal operations which are required to run our own team. If we spend all of our time doing other people's work, we will not be organized as a team and everything falls apart. So you have to have team organizing in order to be able to do work. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is how you organize work, right? If you're organizing an organization, instead of management, you have co-chairs, right? Instead of relations, you have a steering team. Instead of organizing work, you're organizing your teams. Instead of primary work, you have main sessions. And instead of reporting and invoicing, you have budgeting. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it's the same idea. There's no difference between organizing your work and organizing your company, right? Because your company is the same thing. Instead of management, you've got co-chairs. Relations, you've got your steering team. Organizing, you've got your planning and main sessions. Primary work, yeah, blah blah blah. All right. Anyway, so how about unbillable work?
Those are like sessions, main sessions.
What?
Trainings. Attending main sessions, trainings.
It depends on what training it is and whether or not it relates. But I think the easier way to say it is simply that, it's internal work to our team to set ourselves up, and it is simply not billable. So you'll get paid for, we don't pay ourselves, right? We get paid from external sources. We don't get paid from ourselves. Also, this would be good to note, like issues, problems, doubling up work, etc. All right, so I think this is it. The only other thing that we're missing here is under tabulation. It would have the different unbus internal operations pools, and those would be here. Do you know what the other internal operations budget pools are?
Admin.
No. Do you want to link the tabulation, Albina, and we could get that real quick, and then we'll be done.
Budget. We have budget. Payroll.
Monthly budget. Payroll.
Documentation, worker coordination.
Documentation.
Mhm.
Anything else?
Worker coordination. We have budget.
Can you look it up and see what it is?
So worker coordination is there. Running ambas, payroll, documentation. Then client, is it running ambas? I think it is there.
Yeah, we have that. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think there's at least one more.
One more that is payroll. Let me check a minute.
Well, it doesn't really matter. We could always add more. But it's just good to know what our other priorities are in case they come up. And these are all paid. This is all billable work. And it needs to happen in order to get paid all of our money.
Yeah, there is what recruitment? Is it recruitment?
Sure. I think recruitment sounds right.
Do we have client relations and invoicing?
What?
Client relations and invoicing.
Client relations and invoicing. That would be running UMBUS.
There is running ambas separate from that. I think this is running ambas. Is it internal as we do the invoicing? Then client relations and invoicing, that is external. I don't know.
External client invoicing would happen within the actual budget. So if it's external client work, part of it would be invoicing, right? Right?
Yes.
Cool. So I think that's good for the 6 priorities here. So we have monthly budget, running UMBUS, worker coordination, payroll, documentation, and recruitment.
Yes.
And so recruitment, we have the actual recruitment work, right? So this would be the stages and steps. And then we also have a external client for recruitment in relationship to the commission. So the recruitment commission setup and support.
Yeah.
So this is a more of a temporary thing for currently when we need to get it set up. So, and this is for the whole network, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And so all of this, the whole internal operations, right? This is all basically our teamwork. This is our global core team. So the global core team could hire somebody to do work. Well, this would be UMBUS. Global core team. All right.
Yes.
Cool. And then we can add anything for unbillable work that we need to. But I think overall, we are looking good. So any last questions on our priorities for the month?
No.
All right, I think we are done then, and we're ready to check out. All right, so who wants to start? Albina, Lucy, who wants to check out first? I could check out too.
I can check out.
All right, go for it, Lucy.
Yeah, I'll give the session 6. We really learn a lot. I learned especially on virtual assistant, and I hope I will put into practice on that. I'll work on Scheduling virtual assistant. Worker coordination. Getting self-driven expression. Budgeting. Quarterly budget.
And for the budgeting and accounting, you want to start with institutional accounting. So we want to make a spreadsheet. Create spreadsheet. Each tab can be a separate institution, and then we'll just list all the institutions, and we'll just get and tabulate all the institutions for each one and know what the total is. Okay.
Okay.
Cool. Albina.
Yes, the session was good. I give it 6.5. I'll focus on finishing on the monthly budget and quarterly budget accounting. Get the spreadsheet and start with the information you gave us on US Bank. And also, that is quarterly budgets also. And taxes.
Cool. I thought the session went pretty good. I give it a 6, and we got through a lot. It was definitely a little long and slow as usual, but that's just how it goes. I am excited about getting a little bit more understanding on the virtual assistant work. I think it would be really exciting if after a year or more of it's almost in 2 years, like trying to get help on this whole virtual assistant thing, if we could actually make it work, it would be pretty amazing. Oh, and Albina, remember to do the update the potential income based on the new Beyond hard stop amounts.
Yeah, yes.
So that's going to give us a new potential income based on our hard stop. So it'll go back up or change after we do the accounting and budgeting.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I'll be working on the accounting and budgeting and helping with that. I'll be working on the external client work like Vienna Mission Within. I will be working on that's good, yeah. I will be working on just like all of the different planning and coordinating recruitment and goals, and it's just, yeah, it was a lot of one step at a time. And I'm going to call the Ed Fund right after we finish here and see if he's available. Probably not, but I just figured I'd call, leave a message. I think that's it. So good work.
Thank you.
This particular training that we did on the work organizing terms, if we could please add that video training link to the top 10 videos for new recruits. Can we do that? And also, if we could post that link to all of our existing workers, also in our story, let people know they should watch that link.
Oh, I also do rankings. I forget.
Rankings?
Yes.
I don't think rankings are a priority right now.
You said on the budget, you said we need rankings.
Yes. So for the budget, so monthly budget does include some rankings.
Which rankings is that? Just basically for budgets?
So this would be rankings for, oh, actually it's going to be part of the quarterly budget. So as part of the quarterly budget, we added the rankings in here. Let's find it. So find ranking.
Overall ranking, HR ranking.
All right, budget rankings and removing people from the budget. So this is going to be primary work for quarterly budgeting. Okay.
So which ranking are we going to base on that? Oh.
I think we made a list here. Remember, there's also the super team budget. We got to do that, and we also need to contact Joseph. I don't have the list of rankings. Oh, here we go.
Dear, the ranking is always helping us when we are doing when voting. Sometimes we wait. But it's okay.
Anyways, just ask me about the rankings. But it's like percentage increase. It's HR actual pay. Jurisdiction I don't think is very important, so we could probably skip that one. Strikes, we definitely want to do strikes, right? And it's actually creating the proposals is the goal, right? Okay, so I think we're good. I'll talk to y'all later.
Before you go,
yeah,
you said on budget we have only one proposal option you should create.
Yeah.
I already did, so the form is here. Before you go, just check before I send it on the handout.
All right, so this is our budget pool 234. Are you sure these numbers are correct for like Abdul and Zonad? Aren't we doing it smaller?
No, that is just that is not basing on the simple when I just put the amount automatically. But that is not we need to update the new simple. New time budget.
So this is not based on new time budget.
Yeah, that is simple ranked budget.
Okay, but we're doing new time budget, aren't we?
So yeah, okay. So I should create the form basing on the new time budget rankings.
Unless this is the budget you guys want. I mean, it seems like this is not the budget you want. I thought we're doing new time budget now. We're doing new time budget.
Reduce time budget.
Yes, but now when we okay, I'll update first then.
All right, so just let me know and they'll take a look at it and we can always schedule a time to go over it.
All right, thank you.
And we just need to get it done by the quarter moon, okay?
Yes, it's going to be immediately.
Cool, and also I want to remind everybody that in future months, if the new moon is going to be a support team session where we're doing personnel support, life support, all that kind of stuff, we're not going to have time to go over the budget, right? So therefore, we would have to have everything ready for the budget at the last quarter moon, and then we'd have 2 weeks to finalize everything before the first quarter moon. All right, so it's going to be a lot different. If we need to, we can meet before or after the support team session to discuss and address any problems with the budget, right? But overall, our goal is going to be having the budget happen in the background, especially for the monthly budgets, okay?
Yes.
Cool. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.